Welcome back to the Bruderhof YouTube channel. We're on chapter 37 of Following the Call, Living the Sermon on the Mount Together. We're still working through the Lord's Prayer line by line, and we've reached Matthew 6:13. And lead us not into temptation. I think this part of the prayer is one we can all relate to because we all experience times of testing, times of tribulation, times when we are tempted to short-term gratification, having the extra bowl of ice cream that we shouldn't have at the expense of our long-term goals.
Yeah.
But no, seriously, this is a common. I mean, temptation is just part of being a human, right?
Right. Yeah.
Times of testing.
Right. And it's how we live our lives that to counter temptation, that is kind of like the struggle of human existence, I think. I mean, temptation, I think, it doesn't just have to be choices. Like sometimes I think we're forced into situations where we have to deal with external factors, and some of the authors kind of talk about that here in this chapter. It's just very well laid out and kind of examined. So,
and I think probably one of the themes that runs throughout these chapters is that overcoming temptation is not a matter of moral strength or willpower. Charles Spurgeon writes here, "Weakness is our strength, and our strength is weakness." And Thomas à Kempis writes, "We cannot conquer simply by fleeing, but by patience and true humility." We talked previously about asking for forgiveness, and finding forgiveness involves recognizing that we are capable of doing things that we know we shouldn't, right? Or capable of responding in ways to situations that we know that we shouldn't. And it's this humility, acknowledging our weakness, it's there that we're able to find the strength to overcome temptation.
Yeah, and along with that, I mean, Thomas à Kempis also talks about how if we are buffeted by temptations that we can't really handle, it's often because we shouldn't be a rudderless ship, driven hither and yon by the waves. God doesn't put anything on us that we can't withstand, and we can't turn to Him for help. And that was another point that one of the authors made, that the first thing to do is to ask God for help, and how the Lord's Prayer, I think it's the first author, Charles Spurgeon, talks about how, remember, the Lord's Prayer was not made for Him, but for you, and therefore it reads matters from your standpoint. And I thought that was quite encouraging, and to kind of have that realization every day that God is there to help and to give us the strength that we need every day.
And as N.T. Wright points out, he begins by talking about Gethsemane, Jesus' experience in Gethsemane. So temptation is, I think sometimes we maybe think of it as, desire to do whatever, small personal sins, whatever they may be. But times of trial really do come to each one of us. Right now, as we record this video, there's this enormous conflict going on in Israel-Palestine.
Yeah.
And there's an enormous temptation to take sides, to choose a team, to feel, in some ways very justified anger about the atrocities committed by both sides. Of course, started by Hamas. And, God's way is different, right? I mean, in the same way, Jesus could have responded with anger and, at the injustice that was committed against him in Gethsemane, but instead he chose the way of peace, which was a tremendous test. And that's the other meaning of temptation, is test or trial. And I think, whether it's something, that's huge and has global ramifications, or something in our personal lives, when we're confronted with hardship, how we deal with that hardship is so important. choosing the way of peace, choosing the way of, of joy, of hope, of looking toward God's victory. That should really inform our lives.
Yeah, I thought it was a really deep moment from N.T. Wright, where he talks about, Jesus went solo and unaided against this exhausting force, and it was really so that he may take the brunt of it, and the rest of the world can go free. And the other kind of story that it brought to mind for me was thinking in the Old Testament of the 3 men that was captured in Babylon, and how, the government wanted them to worship their idols and they refused. And isn't that also just resisting great temptation to cave?
To conform.
Yeah, to conform. But then I thought the point of the story, that was what N.T. Wright reminded me of, was how God then gave them the strength and the actual physical protection against that fiery furnace, and how they walked freely within that furnace. And to me, that's kind of an allegory with temptation, that he will protect us, even though it seems like we're being consumed by the flames, be that physical in war, in battle, or mentally or spiritually.
Yeah, so I think all of us can really take heart. We don't have to be, superheroes. If we have patience, if we have humility, if we look to God and are steadfast in prayer, we will be able to overcome whatever trials, temptations, tribulations come our way. So thanks for watching, and wish all of you a lovely week.